the quiet countryside of Jones County, Iowa, there is a building that has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted places in the Midwest. Edinburgh Manor, a large brick structure sitting alone on the prairie, has stood for more than a century. Its walls hold not only history, but also the heavy weight of sorrow. The story of this property begins long before the manor was built. In the early 1850s, the land was chosen by the county for what was known as a poor farm. These farms were common across America in the 19th century. They were meant to house people who had no family or money to support them. The residents were often elderly, disabled, or struggling with mental illness. In exchange for shelter and food, they were expected to do labor on the farm, tending crops or animals to keep the place running. Life here was harsh. The people who lived on the farm were often overlooked and forgotten by society. Many spent their final days on this property, and when they passed away, they were buried nearby in unmarked graves. The cemetery still exists on the grounds, though most of the graves bear no names, only faint depressions in the soil. It is believed that dozens, if not hundreds, of individuals rest beneath the earth there, their stories never recorded. By the year 1910, the original farmhouse was torn down. In its place, a new building was constructed, Edinburgh Manor. Unlike the farm, this structure was meant to serve as a long-term home for the mentally ill. Its brick walls rose to create a space that was supposed to offer care and safety. But like many institutions of its time, the manor faced constant struggles. Underfunding, overcrowding, and neglect were common. The residents, many of them vulnerable, lived lives filled with hardship. For the next 100 years, the manor continued to operate. Staff and patients came and went, but the struggles never truly eased. In 2010, the state finally closed its doors. When the last people walked out, much of what they left behind remained untouched. Old wheelchairs, personal belongings, stacks of medical files, and even toys still sit inside, frozen in time. It is these objects, silent reminders of the past, that many believe hold the energy of those who once lived there. Today, Edinburgh Manor is not remembered for its farming or its caretaking. Instead, it is known for the spirits that are said to wander its halls. Paranormal investigators, historians, and curious visitors all come to see for themselves if the stories are true. From the unmarked graves outside to the abandoned rooms inside, the entire property carries a haunting presence, as if the past never truly let go. Stepping inside Edinburgh Manor, the silence is the first thing people notice. The building covers nearly 12,000 square feet, but it often feels suffocating, as if the air itself carries the weight of everything that happened here. The first floor, with its long hallways and abandoned rooms, has gained a reputation as one of the most active areas for paranormal encounters. One of the most well-known spots on this floor is room 106. Visitors say this is where the spirit of a young girl makes herself known. Some have reported hearing the faint sound of laughter or even soft singing. Others bring toys, small dolls, trucks, or rubber balls, and leave them in the room. On more than one occasion, people have claimed to see those toys move on their own, as if an unseen child was still playing there. The presence here is said to feel lighter than in other areas, though it still carries an unsettling reminder that the past has not fully gone. Not far from room 106 is a small janitor's closet. Unlike the playful energy felt in the child's room, this space gives visitors an overwhelming feeling of sadness. The moment people step through the narrow doorway, they often describe a sudden heaviness in their chest, a sensation of being watched, or the urge to leave immediately. Some investigators say the atmosphere in this cramped room is so intense that it becomes difficult to breathe, even though the air inside is no different than anywhere else in the building. The main hallways of the first floor also carry their share of eerie activity. Cold spots appear without explanation, and sudden drafts seem to pass through even when no windows are open. Shadows are often reported darting from one room to another. vanishing the moment anyone tries to follow. On quiet nights, muffled voices have been captured on recording devices, sounding as though they come from the empty rooms around the corner. What makes this part of the manor so unnerving is not just what people see, but what they feel. Many describe the emotions in the first floor as shifting from one room to the next. Childlike curiosity in room 106, deep sorrow in the janitor's closet, and heavy unease in the long hallways. It is as if the building itself holds onto the moods and memories of those who once lived here. The first floor offers only a glimpse into the strange energy of Edinburgh Manor. While some spirits here seem harmless, the deeper one explores the building, the more unsettling the encounters become. If the first floor of Edinburgh Manor is unsettling, the second floor takes the fear to another level. This is the part of the building where visitors most often claim to see full-bodied apparitions. Unlike fleeting shadows or faint sounds, these encounters feel much more direct, as if something is determined to make its presence known. At the top of the main staircase, countless reports describe a woman dressed in white. She is said to appear quietly, often in the late afternoon when the sun filters through the windows. Witnesses describe her as motionless, standing at the landing as though she is waiting for someone. Within seconds, she vanishes, leaving behind only the memory of a figure that should not have been there. This sighting has been repeated so often over the years that many investigators consider it one of the manor's strongest pieces of paranormal evidence. Shadow figures are another common sight on the second floor. These shapes are described as darker than the natural shadows cast by light, often moving quickly across doorways or slipping from one room to another. Some visitors say they feel the rush of cold air as these forms pass close by. What makes the experience most unnerving is that these figures never seem to make a sound, even when crossing creaky wooden floors. Room 200 has also become one of the most notorious places in the building. People who have spent the night inside describe being suddenly woken by the feeling of something pulling at their blankets or even tugging at their feet. During one investigation, an audio recorder captured a clear voice saying the words, "I grabbed you," in the empty room. Others have reported loud bangs echoing through the hallway outside, even when every door was standing open and the corridor was empty. Adding to the atmosphere are the personal items that were left behind when the building was shut down in the year 2010. On the second floor, shoes, books, and small belongings remain on shelves and nightstands. Walking past them gives the uneasy sense that their owners might return at any moment. Investigators say these objects may act as triggers, holding emotional energy that spirits continue to cling to. The second floor of Edinburgh Manor leaves little doubt that the building holds more than empty rooms. From the watchful woman in white to the restless shadows moving along the halls, this part of the asylum seems to carry the strongest reminders of those who never truly left. Beneath the main structure of Edinburgh Manor lies the basement, a place that many investigators describe as the most dangerous and unsettling part of the building. Unlike the rest of the manor, where activity can shift between playful, sorrowful, or quiet, the atmosphere here is overwhelmingly oppressive. Visitors often report that the temperature drops sharply as soon as they step down the stairs, and the air feels heavy, as if something unseen is waiting. The basement has become known as the territory of an entity that many call the Joker. This spirit is often described as tall, menacing, and aggressive. Unlike the childlike presence of the first floor or the watchful woman of the second, this being is said to thrive on fear. Investigators tell stories of being scratched, pushed, or even choked while exploring the dark corridors below. The sound of objects being thrown, such as stones skipping across the concrete floor, has also been reported in areas where no one else was standing. One of the most infamous spots in the basement is a small padded room at the far end. This space, with its plain concrete walls, is believed to be the center of the basement's activity. People who have dared to spend time inside often describe an overwhelming feeling of anger directed at them. Some claim to hear scraping sounds on the walls just outside the room, like fingernails dragging along stone. Spirit box sessions and audio recordings from this area have captured unsettling results, including deep laughter and whispers that seem to respond directly to questions. Evidence gathered over the years has convinced many that the basement holds something far darker than a lingering memory. Recordings have captured guttural laughs, growls, and even chilling words that investigators could not explain. One recording in particular featured a whispered voice that appeared to say a single word: mine. Whether this spirit is connected to a former resident of the asylum or something else entirely remains unknown, but nearly everyone who visits agrees that the energy here is unlike anything in the rest of the building. Edinburgh Manor as a whole feels less like an abandoned structure and more like a container for everything that happened there over the past century and a half. From the unmarked graves outside to the toys and belongings left behind inside, the property is filled with reminders of lives once lived. Paranormal activity reported throughout the building, from the playful laughter of a child to the terrifying presence in the basement, suggests that the story of Edinburgh Manor is far from over. For those who enter, the question remains: are these spirits reaching out to be remembered, or are they warning visitors to stay away? Edinburgh Manor continues to draw investigators and thrill seekers from across the country, all hoping to uncover the truth. But one thing is certain: the echoes of the past still linger in its halls, and they may never be silenced. In the small town of Chelsea, Iowa, there is an old building that many people believe never truly emptied. Today it is known as Periwinkle Place Manor, but for most of its life, it served a very different purpose. Long before ghost stories followed its halls, this place was where the town came face to face with death. Whispers, shadow shapes, and strange voices are now linked to it, but those stories did not appear out of nowhere. They grew from a history that stretches back more than a century. The building first opened in the year 1892 as a funeral home on Main Street. For generations, it was the place where loved ones were brought after passing away. Bodies were prepared here, wakes were held here, and final goodbyes happened inside these walls. For the people of Chelsea, this building became deeply tied to grief and loss. It stayed in operation for more than 100 years, quietly witnessing the hardest moments of many families' lives. Every part of the structure was shaped by its purpose. Rooms that now look like bedrooms once held viewings. Lower areas were used for embalming. A body elevator was installed to move the deceased between floors, and it still exists today. Over time, the building absorbed the weight of what happened inside it. When the funeral home finally closed in the year 2003, the work ended, but many believe the energy did not leave with it. After years of sitting empty, the building was damaged by both fire and flooding. Instead of erasing that past, the damage was sealed and left visible. Burn marks and scars remain as reminders of what the building endured. Even the name Periwinkle Place Manor comes from a real object left behind: an old, periwinkle-colored casket that never left the property. It stands as a quiet symbol of what this place was always meant for. This long connection to death is why so many people believe the manor is haunted. Paranormal investigators say places like this can hold on to emotional energy, especially when death was part of daily life. Strange voices captured on audio, often called electronic voice phenomena, and dark shapes seen in hallways are now part of the manor's story. Before anyone ever stayed the night looking for ghosts, the foundation for something unsettling was already there. This is where the haunting of Periwinkle Place Manor truly begins. Not with a single tragedy, but with decades of sorrow layered into one building. And many believe that some of what arrived here over the years never found a reason to leave. When Periwinkle Place Manor became a private residence and guest location, the strange activity did not slowly appear over time. According to those who lived and worked there, It began almost right away. The building did not act like an empty, historic home. It acted like a place that already had occupants. Doors opened on their own. Sounds came from rooms with no one inside, and the feeling of being watched became a normal part of daily life. One of the most unsettling things reported inside the manor was movement that could not be explained. Cupboard doors were heard slamming shut when no one was nearby. Doors that had been fully closed were later found standing wide open. These events were not rare or tied to one moment. They happened again and again, making it clear this was not just an old building settling. Sounds were another constant problem. People inside the manor described hearing coughing, humming, and soft footsteps coming from empty rooms. These noises did not match the layout of the house or the location of anyone inside it. At times, the sounds felt close, as if someone was standing just out of sight. Other times, they echoed through the halls late at night when everything should have been silent. One heavy piece of furniture became a major focus of attention. A large table located in the lower part of the building was repeatedly found moved from its original spot. On several occasions, it was discovered completely flipped over. No signs of forced entry were ever found, and the table was too heavy to be moved easily. After this happened many times, the table was moved to the upper level of the manor, an area known for strong activity. After that change, the table was never disturbed again. Outside the main building, activity was also reported. Near the old carriage house, where vehicles once waited to transport the deceased, a full-shaped figure was seen. The figure appeared briefly, described as smoky and solid, wearing an old-style hat. It vanished quickly, but the sight left no doubt that something unusual had been witnessed. This moment became one of the strongest reasons the manor earned its haunted reputation. By this point, the activity could no longer be ignored. Periwinkle Place Manor was no longer just a historic building with a dark past. It had become a place where unexplained events happened often and without warning. What made it even more unsettling was that these experiences were not tied to fear or imagination. They happened in ordinary moments, in plain sight, and in ways that made people stop and question what was really sharing the space with them. As word spread about the activity at Periwinkle Place Manor, people from outside the area began to visit on purpose. Some came out of curiosity, others came hoping to experience something paranormal for themselves. Many of them left with stories that matched what had already been reported, even though they had never been told what to expect. This made the hauntings harder to dismiss. One of the most talked about experiences involved a childlike presence. Visitors staying overnight reported the feeling of being watched from low to the ground, especially in rooms filled with antique furniture. Some described light footsteps moving across floors when no one else was awake. Others felt a gentle tug on blankets or a sudden cold near their legs, as if someone small was standing beside the bed. A particular room containing old toys became a focal point for this activity. Guests noticed a vintage rocking toy moving slightly on its own, even when the air was still. The movement was slow and steady, not sudden or violent. This happened during quiet moments and was witnessed by different people at different times, often without anyone else in the room. Another repeated sighting involved a tall figure dressed in light-colored clothing. This figure was usually seen in hallways or near doorways and never stayed for long. People described it appearing for only a second before fading away. The figure did not speak and did not react when noticed, but its presence left a strong feeling of unease. Audio recordings added to the fear. Visitors using basic recording devices later discovered voices they did not hear at the time. These sounds were often soft and short, sometimes resembling whispers or single words. The voices did not match anyone who had been present and were found during moments of complete silence. What made these encounters more chilling was their consistency. People who did not know each other described the same types of figures, sounds, and feelings. The experiences did not seem random. They followed patterns as if the same unseen residents were making themselves known again and again. By this point, it became clear that Periwinkle Place Manor was not just holding memories of the past. Something was still active inside, aware of those who entered, and willing to make its presence felt. As the reports continued to grow, Periwinkle Place Manor began attracting organized paranormal investigation teams. These were not casual visitors looking for a scare, but groups trained to document unusual activity using controlled methods. Their goal was simple: determine whether the experiences could be measured, recorded, or explained. Before any sessions began, teams carefully checked the building during daylight hours. They mapped out rooms, tested for electrical wiring issues, and noted natural sounds caused by the structure itself. This step was important because it helped rule out normal explanations later. Investigators repeatedly stated that many of the strange events happened in areas where no wiring or plumbing could cause interference. Once night fell, equipment was set up throughout the manor. Motion sensors were placed in hallways, temperature meters were left running in unused rooms, and audio recorders were turned on for hours at a time. These sessions were often done in silence, with investigators remaining still to avoid contamination of results. During several investigations, temperature changes were recorded without warning. Rooms that had been stable suddenly dropped in temperature for short periods, then returned to normal. These cold areas did not match outside weather conditions and appeared indoors with no open windows or doors nearby. Investigators noted that these changes happened most often late at night. Electronic voice phenomena sessions produced some of the most unsettling results. Investigators asked simple questions and left long pauses for responses. When audio was reviewed later, voices were sometimes heard that no one remembered hearing in real time. These sounds were faint and brief, often appearing between questions rather than during movement or speech. Visual monitoring also raised concerns. Stationary cameras occasionally captured shadows passing through doorways where no one had walked. These shapes did not match reflections or light changes, and appeared solid for a brief moment before disappearing. In some cases, motion sensors were triggered without any visible cause. By the end of multiple investigations, teams agreed on one thing: the activity at Periwinkle Place Manor followed patterns. The same areas reacted again and again, even with different groups on different nights. While no investigator claimed to fully understand what was happening, many left convinced that the manor was not just an old building with stories. Something unseen was still interacting with the space, responding to those who tried to reach out. As time moved on, Periwinkle Place Manor became known far beyond the small town of Chelsea. Stories from investigators, guests, and caretakers continued to spread, turning the building into one of Iowa's most talked-about haunted locations. People did not come just for a scare. Many arrived curious about the history, while others wanted to understand why the activity seemed so steady and focused. What makes the manor stand out is how consistent the experiences have been over the years. Different visitors arriving at different times often described the same feelings in the same areas. Some spoke of sudden sadness or pressure in certain rooms. Others felt watched, even when alone. These reactions often happened without any prompting or suggestion, which only added to the mystery. The building itself plays a strong role in these stories. The preserved funeral home features, the quiet hallways, and the sense of stillness all contribute to an atmosphere that feels heavy and emotional. Many visitors said it felt less like a place of fear and more like a place that held memories that never faded. The energy felt personal, as if the past was layered into the walls. Skeptics have also visited the manor, hoping to disprove the claims. While some left unconvinced, others admitted they experienced moments they could not explain. Even those who did not witness direct activity often spoke about the strong mood inside the building, describing it as tense or uneasy without knowing why. Today, Periwinkle Place Manor stands as both a historic landmark and a paranormal hotspot. It represents more than ghost stories. It is a reminder of how places connected to grief and transition can leave lasting impressions. Whether the unexplained events are paranormal or something science has yet to understand, the experiences tied to the manor remain real to those who lived them. For many who walk through its doors, the question is not whether something strange happens there, but why it continues. After more than a century tied to death and mourning, it seems that Periwinkle Place Manor never fully let go of its past. And for those who believe in the unseen, the spirits inside may still be doing what they have always done, lingering, watching, and refusing to move on. Just outside of Burlington, Iowa lies a lonely gravel road carved between thick woods and steep limestone cliffs. Today, it looks like any other rural back road, but for over 100 years, locals have whispered that it is cursed. This is Stony Hollow Road, and its haunted reputation can be traced back to a single, heartbreaking story from the 1800s. According to legend, a young woman named Lucinda once walked this road with hope in her heart. She had fallen in love and planned to run away with her fiancé despite her family's disapproval. The meeting place was here, along the quiet stretch beneath the cliff. All she had to do was wait for him to arrive, and they would begin their new life together. But the night stretched on, and the sound of hooves or wagon wheels never came. Lucinda stood in the cold darkness, hours passing as her excitement gave way to despair. Some say her fiancé was delayed by a broken wagon on the muddy roads, while others insist he simply abandoned her. By dawn, her hope was gone. Overcome with grief, she climbed the cliff above the road and leapt to her death. That moment became the foundation of one of Iowa's most enduring ghost stories. Locals began to speak of a pale figure wandering the road at night, dressed in white, and waiting by the cliffs. They believed it was Lucinda, still searching for the lover who never arrived. With each retelling, the story grew, passed down through families in Burlington and beyond. By the early 1900s, Stony Hollow Road was already known as a place you did not travel after dark. Parents warned their children not to wander there, and visitors who drove the road at night often spoke of headlights catching something inhumanly pale moving across the gravel. What began as a tragedy quickly became folklore, sealing the road's reputation as one of Iowa's most haunted places. As the story of Lucinda spread, it became more than just a ghost tale. It turned into a test of courage for the people of Burlington and surrounding towns. By the early 20th century, teenagers and thrill-seekers began driving out to the gravel stretch of Stony Hollow Road late at night to challenge one another. The dare was simple but terrifying. Stand beneath the cliffs and call out Lucinda's name 3 times. According to legend, if you speak her name, Lucinda will appear. Some say she shows herself as a pale woman in white, standing near the edge of the cliff where she ended her life. Others describe her form materializing from the mist, drifting silently across the gravel road before vanishing. The most frightening version of the story warns that if Lucinda places a black rose at your feet, it means your death will follow within 24 hours. This chilling detail made the legend spread far beyond Burlington. By mid-century, Stony Hollow Road was no longer just a local ghost story. It became one of Iowa's most famous urban legends. Newspapers and regional folklore books even mention Lucinda, placing her alongside other classic American ghost figures, such as the Woman in White and the Hitchhiking Phantom. The dare itself became a rite of passage. High school students would drive out in groups, parking along the gravel road with headlights off, their voices echoing as they called into the darkness. Some reported seeing a faint figure near the cliffs, while others swore they heard footsteps crunching along the road, even though no one was there. A few claimed that when they turned to leave, their car would not start, as if something unseen wanted them to stay. For generations, the legend of Lucinda has kept Stony Hollow Road alive in Iowa folklore. It is more than just a story. It is an invitation, a test of bravery that has drawn countless people into the dark woods at night. And each time someone dares to whisper her name, the tragic memory of Lucinda is called back to life once more. Over the years, Stony Hollow Road has become one of Iowa's most frequently visited haunted locations. Paranormal groups, amateur ghost hunters, and curious locals continue to make the drive just outside of Burlington, hoping to catch a glimpse of Lucinda. And what makes this site so compelling is that reports of strange activity have not faded with time. In fact, they continue to this day. Visitors often describe sudden changes in temperature when walking along the cliffs, even on warm summer nights. Some have reported their flashlights dimming or turning off entirely, only to flicker back to life moments later. Car batteries are said to drain without explanation, leaving drivers stranded until the energy mysteriously returns. These small but unsettling incidents feed into the belief that Lucinda still lingers on the road. Paranormal investigators have also attempted to document the haunting. During the late-night visits, some groups have recorded unexplained voices on electronic devices, often described as faint whispers or cries. Photographs taken near the cliffs sometimes reveal hazy shapes, white mists, or orbs of light that were not visible to the naked eye at the time. While skeptics dismiss these as tricks of light or equipment error, believers argue that they are evidence of Lucinda's restless spirit. In addition to ghost hunters, ordinary travelers have their own unsettling stories. A few have claimed to see a lone woman standing near the edge of the cliff, only to vanish when they approached. Others say they felt as though someone was following them, though the road appeared completely empty. One driver reported slamming on their brakes after spotting a figure step into the road. But when the headlights caught the spot, no one was there. These modern encounters keep the legend alive, ensuring that Stony Hollow Road remains one of Iowa's most infamous haunted locations. While many come expecting only a thrill, some leave convinced they truly cross paths with Lucinda. And for every skeptic who drives away without incident, there is another visitor who claims the spirit of Stony Hollow Road is still very real. Stony Hollow Road's haunted reputation has grown far beyond the small community of Burlington. Over the decades, the legend of Lucinda has become a lasting piece of Iowa folklore, passed down through families, retold in classrooms, and featured in regional ghost tours. Unlike many local ghost tales that fade over time, this one has endured, making the road a destination for thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts alike. What makes the legend so enduring is not only the tragic story attached to the cliff, but also the ritual tied to Lucinda. The idea that calling her name 3 times could summon her spirit adds an interactive element that few ghost stories possess. This ritual has kept the tale alive with each new generation, as curious visitors return to test the legend for themselves. Some come away disappointed, while others leave convinced they experienced something they cannot explain. Stony Hollow Road has also attracted attention from writers, folklorists, and paranormal researchers. It has been included in books and articles about haunted places in the Midwest, and is frequently listed among Iowa's most haunted locations. The story of Lucinda serves as a reminder of how folklore can shape the identity of a place, transforming an ordinary rural road into a landmark of the supernatural. Despite skepticism, the road continues to draw people from across the state and beyond. For locals, it is both a source of pride and unease, a reminder of how deeply legends can root themselves into community history. Whether Lucinda truly lingers by the cliffs or her story lives only in the imagination, Stony Hollow Road has become a symbol of Iowa's haunted past. In the end, the truth may never be known. What is certain is that Stony Hollow Road remains one of the most famous haunted sites in the state, a place where history, folklore, and mystery come together. And as long as people dare to whisper Lucinda's name into the night air, the legend will continue to echo through the hills of Iowa. In the early fall of 1903, Van Meter, Iowa was a calm and ordinary place. It was a small farming town with dirt roads, wooden buildings, and and quiet nights, broken only by the sound of the wind and the nearby river. Most people worked long days and went to bed early. Nothing strange ever happened there, and that was exactly how the town liked it. Van Meter sat near the Raccoon River and was surrounded by open land and coal mines that had once brought work and growth to the area. By this time, some of those mines were no longer used. They sat dark and forgotten at the edge of town, slowly being taken back by nature. No one thought much about them anymore. As September came to an end, the nights grew cooler and darker. Windows were shut, lamps were turned low, and the town settled into its usual routine. That peace did not last. Late one night, just before the end of the month, a strange light appeared without warning. It was bright enough to wake someone from sleep and strong enough to fill a room. At first, it seemed like it could be explained away. People assumed it was a trick of the eyes or maybe someone outside with a lantern. But when the light moved, the feeling changed. It did not act like anything familiar. It rose high above the buildings and crossed rooftops with ease. There was no sound at first, just the glow cutting through the darkness. Then as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. By morning, the story had already begun to spread. Neighbors spoke in low voices. Some laughed it off, but others felt uneasy. The light did not behave like fire or electricity, and no one could explain how it moved the way it did. That night marked the beginning of something that would shake the town to its core. Over the next few evenings, more people stayed awake after dark. Doors were locked earlier than usual. Lamps were kept close. There was a growing sense that Van Meter was no longer alone at night. Whatever had shown itself in the sky was not finished. And soon, the people of Van Meter would realize they were not just seeing a strange light. They were about to come face to face with something far more terrifying, something that would turn their quiet town into one of Iowa's darkest haunted legends. After the strange light first appeared, the quiet nights of Van Meter were gone. People were restless, sleeping lightly, unsure of what might appear after dark. It did not take long for the mystery to turn into fear. Late in the night, on September 29th, 1903, a respected local businessman was suddenly woken by an intense white glow pouring into his bedroom. At first, he believed someone was outside his home using a powerful lamp. Concerned, he stepped outside to investigate. What he saw made no sense. The light was not coming from the ground. It was perched high above the street, resting on the roof of a nearby building. Without warning, it leapt across the road and landed on another rooftop with ease. The movement was smooth and unnatural, not like anything human. Moments later, the light vanished into the darkness. The following night, the situation grew even more disturbing. Another respected member of the town was startled awake by the same blinding glow. This time, the light was closer and stronger. When he stepped outside, he saw the source clearly enough to know it was no trick. Standing on a tall telephone pole was a large, upright figure. It was not an animal anyone recognized. The shape appeared tall and broad, with massive wings folded against its sides. Its body looked humanoid, but its features were wrong. From the center of its head protruded a short horn, and from that horn came the bright beam of light that had been waking the town. The creature did not move like a bird. It watched silently, as if aware it was being observed. When shots were fired, they had no effect. The figure did not fall or cry out. Instead, it spread its wings and lifted into the air, disappearing into the night sky as easily as it had arrived. By morning, word spread fast. These were not wild rumors passed between children. These were serious adults describing the same thing: a winged creature, a glowing light, and a presence that felt intelligent and aware. Fear took hold of Van Meter. People stayed indoors after sunset. Businesses closed early. Windows were covered. Each night, residents listened closely for strange sounds, waiting to see if the creature would return, and return it did. What began as strange lights had now become something physical and terrifying. The Van Meter visitor was no longer just a mystery in the dark. It was watching the town, and the town knew it. By the time the third night arrived, Van Meter was no longer just uneasy. The town was on edge. Word of the winged figure had reached nearly every household, and many people refused to believe it was a simple mistake or a prank. Too many details matched. Too many witnesses described the same shape, the same light, and the same feeling of dread. One local banker decided to face whatever was stalking the town. He believed the stories might be part of a scheme meant to scare people away from their businesses. Armed with a shotgun, he stayed inside his bank after closing, waiting in silence as the night stretched on. Just after midnight, an unsettling sound echoed outside. It was not a cry or a call, but a deep, gurgling noise that did not resemble any known animal. As he approached the front window, a powerful beam of light suddenly blasted through the glass, leaving him stunned and disoriented. Through the glare, he could see the outline of the creature standing outside. It was tall, winged, and motionless. The horn on its head glowed as the light poured outward. The banker fired his weapon more than once, but the shots did nothing. The figure did not fall. It did not react. After a brief moment, it rose into the air and vanished, leaving the men shaken and certain that what he had seen was real. By morning, fear had fully taken hold. The local newspaper reported on the growing panic. People began carrying firearms after dark. Groups gathered on street corners, watching the sky. The creature's presence was no longer limited to nighttime sightings either. During the day, a local hardware store owner noticed something unusual on a nearby telephone pole. Perched high above the street was the same winged figure, resting as if unbothered by daylight. When a shot was fired toward it, the creature took flight. As it left, witnesses noticed something else that had not been reported before. A strong, foul smell lingered in the air. It was described as heavy and sickening, unlike smoke or decay. Not long after, a sharp, high sound was heard as the creature disappeared into the distance. From that moment on, the smell and the sound became part of the legend, signs that the visitor had been near. Van Meter was no longer just watching the skies in fear. The town was preparing to act. As the sightings continued, the people of Van Meter realized waiting in fear was no longer an option. The creature had returned too many times, and each appearance felt closer and more threatening than the last. By early October, the town was exhausted, frightened, and ready to confront whatever had invaded their nights. On the evening of October 3rd, 1903, a group of local men gathered together. They were not trained hunters or investigators, just farmers, shop owners, and workers who had reached their limit. Armed with rifles and lanterns, they formed a small posse and set out to track the creature once and for all. They followed reports and signs toward the edge of town, moving slowly and carefully through the darkness. Their path led them to an abandoned coal mine near an old brickyard. The mine had been closed for years and was known as a dangerous place. With deep tunnels and unstable ground, many believed it was empty and forgotten. As the group approached the mine entrance, the air changed. A loud, unsettling sound came from within the darkness. Witnesses later described it as a terrible noise, unlike anything they had ever heard. It did not sound human or animal. The men hesitated, gripping their weapons as the sound grew closer. Then something emerged. From the mouth of the mine came the winged creature the town had been seeing all week. But it was not alone. A second figure appeared behind it, smaller in size but similar in shape. Both figures were briefly visible in the lantern light. Before the posse could react, a bright beam of light shot out once again, forcing the men to shield their eyes. The air filled with that same overpowering smell. Within moments, both creatures retreated back into the mine, vanishing into the darkness below. The men did not follow. They knew the mine was too dangerous, and whatever lived inside, it was not something they could face underground. Instead, after daylight returned, the town made a final decision. The entrance to the coal mine was sealed shut, cutting off access to the tunnels beneath Van Meter. After that night, the sightings stopped. The lights did not return. The sounds faded. The winged figure was never seen again in the town. But even with the mine sealed, the people of Van Meter were left with a haunting thought. If the creature had come from below, had it truly been trapped? Or had it simply moved on? After the mine was sealed, life in Van Meter slowly returned to normal. Nights became quiet again, and the strange lights never came back. Still, the events of that fall were never forgotten. The story was passed down through families, spoken about in hushed tones, and remembered as the week when something unknown watched the town from above. For many years, the sightings were treated as local folklore. There was no physical proof left behind, only written accounts and shared memories. Yet, what made the story stand out was the consistency. Multiple people from different parts of town described the same strange features without ever changing their stories. As time went on, researchers began to revisit the case. Some focused on natural explanations, while others looked toward the unexplained. The idea that the creature may have lived underground gained attention, especially due to the abandoned mining tunnels beneath the area. Coal mining had once been active throughout the region, creating deep passageways that few people ever explored. Others pointed to the creature's unusual traits: the glowing light, the lack of response to gunfire, and its intelligence did not fit any known animal. These details pushed the story beyond simple misidentification and into the world of the paranormal. For many, the Van Meter visitor became more than a cryptid. It became a symbol of something not meant to be seen. In modern times, interest in the legend has returned. Occasional reports from rural Iowa describe large, strange figures moving through the night sky. These sightings are rare and often brief, but they echo the same fear felt more than a century ago. People who report them often describe a deep sense of unease, as if they were being watched. Today, Van Meter no longer hides from its past. The town has embraced the legend as part of its identity. Each year, visitors come to learn about the sightings and walk the same streets where fear once ruled the night. What was once a source of terror has become a piece of haunted history. The truth remains unknown. Whether the Van Meter visitor was a creature from the depths, something not of this world, or a mystery that can never be explained, one thing is certain. In 1903, something real enough to terrify an entire town appeared in the darkness. And some legends are born not from stories told around a fire, but from fear that was lived, witnessed, and never fully understood. Along the banks of the Mississippi River in Dubuque, Iowa, stands the Mathias Ham House, a limestone mansion built in the mid-19th century. To many, it looks like a proud reminder of a wealthy family's past. But to others, it is a place where the echoes of history are still very much alive. Today, it operates as a museum, but long before tourists ever stepped inside. This house was the center of one family's ambition, heartbreak, and lasting mystery. The story begins with Mathias Ham, a businessman who settled in the Dubuque area in the 1830s. He found his fortune in industries like lead mining, lumber, farming, and river shipping. By the late 1850s, his success allowed him to build a mansion unlike anything else in the city at the time. The Ham House was completed in the year 1857, and it contained an impressive 21 rooms. Its design followed the Italianate style, with tall windows, wide eaves, and an octagonal belvedere that rose above the home. From this tower, Mathias could look out over the Mississippi River and watch his steamboats pass by, a daily reminder of his achievements. The limestone used to build the mansion had its own curious history. It had originally been intended for a government project, but was rejected by federal engineers. Mathias purchased it and used it to create a lasting symbol of his wealth and influence. To visitors, the mansion represented progress and success. To the Ham family, it was their private world of comfort, filled with children's voices, family gatherings, and the day-to-day life of a 19th century household. Yet even in this grand setting, tragedy touched the family. Mathias and his wife Zerelda raised 5 children here, and the house witnessed both celebrations and sorrow. By the year 1889, Mathias had passed away, leaving behind the mansion and his legacy. The house would remain in the family's care into the early 20th century, with his daughter Sarah being the last of the Ham family to live inside. As the years passed, stories began to circulate that the house was more than just a historic landmark. Its towering rooms, shadowed corners, and commanding presence on the hill seemed to hold more than memories. Locals whispered about strange happenings connected not only to the Ham family, but also to darker tales tied to the river itself. While the house stood as a symbol of success, it also quietly gained a reputation as a place where the past refused to rest. Long after the house was finished and the family had settled into their routines, a story began to circle through Dubuque that gave the mansion its darkest edge. Local folklore says that in his earlier years, Mathias crossed paths with criminals who worked the Mississippi River, men often called river pirates. According to the tale, some were brought to justice, and one vowed revenge. There's no court record tying this threat directly to the Ham family, but the story took root and never let go. Years later, after Mathias had died in the year 1889, the legend shifts to his daughter, Sarah. One night, the house was quiet and she was said to be alone. From the main stair, slow steps began to rise, one after another, as if someone was trying not to be heard. Following a plan for emergencies, she placed a lamp in a window to call for help and waited behind her bedroom door, with her fear growing by the second. When the footsteps reached the landing, the legend says she fired twice through the wooden door. The noise brought neighbors, who hurried to the mansion. What happened next is the part that keeps the story alive. People later told of a trail of blood leading down the stairs and out toward the river, fading near the bank of the Mississippi. No official report confirms this scene, but the image has stuck for more than a century, told and retold in tours and local histories. The staircase at the center of this tale became more than wood and rails. It turned into a stage where the past and the present touched. Guides still frame the story as folklore, reminding visitors that it is a handed-down account rather than a proven event. Yet the details, late-night steps, a signal lamp in the window, hurried neighbors at the door, feel specific enough to make people lean in and listen. By the year 1912, Sarah sold the property to the city, and she died in the year 1921. Even so, the pirate legend stayed behind with the house. It gave Dubuque a ready answer for why the mansion might feel unsettled after dark, and it set the tone for later reports of strange sounds and movements. Whether entirely true or partly myth, the story of the intruder on the stairs is the hinge that swings the Ham House from grand history into haunted territory. And it is the doorway through which many investigators first step when they try to make sense of what people still hear inside. When the Mathias Ham House passed into the city's care in the year 1912, it did not silence the stories that had grown inside its walls. In fact, new tales began to form, many of them centered not on Mathias himself, but on his daughter, Sarah. As the last family member to live in the home, her presence lingers strongest in local memory, and some say, in the house itself. Volunteers and caretakers working in the house after it became a historic site claimed to hear soft footsteps when the building was empty. They described the sound as deliberate, as though someone in a long dress was moving across the wooden floors. At times, the footsteps seemed to stop on the second level, near the very stairwell where the pirate legend placed its climax. Visitors often ask if this is Sarah, still pacing her childhood home. One of the most repeated accounts involves windows that seem to open or close on their own. Guides tell of walking through the house to find heavy wooden shutters moved, despite being secured earlier in the day. In the warm Iowa summers, these sudden changes are brushed off as drafts, yet more than one staff member has admitted it felt different, more like a decision than an accident. There are also stories of voices, not loud conversations, but faint words carried through empty rooms. A caretaker in the mid-20th century told of hearing a woman's voice humming a tune, steady and low, though no one else was in the house at the time. The sound disappeared when he tried to follow it, leaving behind only silence. Even today, guides and guests continue to share similar experiences. They speak of being watched from the upper windows or catching a shadowy figure in the corner of their eyes. While skeptics point to the creaks and groans of a 19th century structure, others believe Sarah never truly left. Her quiet devotion to the home during her life may explain why her presence is still felt by so many who walk its halls. These reports have turned Sarah into the heart of the Ham House legend. While Mathias built the mansion, it is his daughter who now defines its ghost stories. Each unexplained sound or flicker of movement keeps alive the idea that the Ham family, in some way, remains a part of the house they once called home. Today, the Mathias Ham House stands as one of Dubuque's most visited historic sites, preserved by the Dubuque County Historical Society. By daylight, it is a museum filled with period furnishings and stories of 19th century river life. But when the sun sets, the house takes on an entirely different reputation, one shaped by decades of eerie accounts. Paranormal groups have investigated the mansion, often reporting spikes on their equipment in rooms long connected with a ghostly activity. Cold spots are commonly felt on the second floor, where visitors have described sudden chills even on hot summer nights. Some claim the air feels heavier there, as though the past has not fully released its grip. In the basement, guides have told of objects being shifted out of place. While preparing for tours, they sometimes return to find chairs or displays moved slightly, though no one else has been inside. These subtle disturbances add to the belief that unseen hands remain active within the walls. Perhaps the most unsettling stories involve the sensation of being followed. Guests walking through the corridors often stop suddenly, convinced someone is just a step behind them. Turning around, they find no one there. This recurring feeling is so frequent that many guides mention it before tours even begin. Over the years, the Ham House has gained a reputation not just as a museum, but as one of Iowa's most haunted landmarks. Its legends blend fact and folklore, the tragic pirate tale, the lonely presence of Sarah Ham, and the countless unexplained events experienced by visitors. Whether one believes in spirits or not, the atmosphere of the house is undeniable. Each creak of the floorboards, each whisper of air through its tall windows, reminds visitors that history is alive here in more ways than one. The Mathias Ham House continues to draw those who seek both education and the thrill of a haunting, making it a place where the past refuses to stay silent. The Independence Mental Hospital, also called Independence State Hospital, stands as one of Iowa's most infamous historic asylums. Construction began in 1863, and it finally opened its doors in 1873. It was designed in the Kirkbride style, a type of architecture meant to bring light, air, and hope to those struggling with mental illness. The building stretches across acres of land, with long wings and tall windows that were supposed to help patients recover. The architect, Stephen von Shipman, wanted this to be a place of healing, a model for the nation. At first, the hospital focused on helping people with mental illnesses. Over the decades, however, it became home to many others, including those with addictions and the elderly who needed care. Crowding became common, and the hospital had to make hard choices just to manage so many residents at once. Though the original idea was moral treatment, this meant structured schedules, work, and strict routines. But it also left a mark on the building itself. Every corridor and hallway carries decades of energy from countless lives. Even today, the older wings of Independence Mental Hospital remain mostly untouched. Some areas are closed to the public, preserved almost as they were over 100 years ago. Visitors to these halls often report a feeling of heaviness, like the air itself remembers the past. Paranormal investigators have noted sudden drops in temperature and unexplained sounds. especially in areas where patients once spent most of their time. It is said that the energy of the hospital is strongest in the older wings, where the architecture channels sound and movement through long, narrow hallways. The hospital also contains what is now called the Days of Yore Museum. It is set up in the old wings and displays medical equipment from the hospital's early years. Some of these artifacts, such as early electroshock devices, were meant to treat patients, but now serve as chilling reminders of how far medical care has come. Those exploring the museum often describe a sense of being watched, a feeling that someone, maybe many someones, still lingers nearby. Even staff in the modern parts of the hospital sometimes hear unexplained noises drifting from the older, unused areas. Tonight, as we begin our exploration, we start in this historic section. The floors are creaking, and the walls feel cold, even in the evening. There is a quiet, almost invisible tension in the air, as if the building itself is aware of our presence. It is here, in the oldest wings, where the first stories of spirits and shadows emerge. Investigators using EMF meters and spirit boxes often experience minor readings at first, gentle signals that grow stronger as they move deeper into the hospital. These readings are rarely aggressive, but they do suggest that something unseen is aware of visitors. Standing here, looking down the long corridors of the original hospital, it is easy to see why people say this place is haunted. The combination of its history, its architecture, and the countless people who have passed through its halls creates a setting that is both fascinating and terrifying. And as we move further into the old wings, we begin to feel that we are not just exploring history. We are walking through layers of energy that refuse to stay buried. As we move deeper into the older wings of Independence Mental Hospital, one of the most famous ghost stories emerges, the lady in the wheelchair. This area was once part of the youth wing, a section meant for younger patients. The hallways are narrow, and the rooms are small, lined with heavy wooden doors and old peeling paint. Walking through here, the air feels heavier, almost like it carries the weight of the past. Visitors and staff alike have reported seeing her over the years. The story goes that she appears as an elderly woman, sitting silently in a plain wooden wheelchair. She doesn't move, doesn't speak, but her presence is undeniable. Those who encounter her describe an overwhelming sense of being watched. Some have even felt a sudden chill or a shift in air pressure, as though she is aware of their presence. Paranormal investigators have confirmed these reports, often detecting EMF spikes or sudden, unexplained drops in temperature in this exact hallway. The room associated with her is empty today. There is no wheelchair, no sign of anyone having been there recently. Yet, multiple accounts suggest that she manifests most clearly at night, or when the hospital is quiet. Some say she has been seen looking toward the door, almost as if waiting for someone, or trying to warn them. The stories are consistent across decades, hinting at a lingering spirit tied to this space rather than random imaginings. Investigators have used REM pods and other paranormal detection tools in this hallway. These devices emit a small energy field and alert when something interacts with it. In several documented investigations, the devices have suddenly lit up without any human interference. The flashes often last a few seconds and then stop, leaving everyone in the room questioning whether they just witnessed something supernatural. Even when staff try to remain skeptical, the evidence is hard to ignore. What makes this encounter so chilling is the way it feels personal. Unlike many reported ghosts that remain in the shadows or appear briefly in hallways, the lady in the wheelchair seems to occupy the space fully. Those who have experienced her presence often report an almost emotional reaction, a combination of fear, sadness, and empathy. It is as though the walls themselves are whispering the stories of those who've spent time here, unable to leave the past behind. The youth wing and its hallways provide a direct connection to the hospital's history, reminding us that the building was not only a treatment center, but also a home for many young patients. While the facility has long since modernized and some wings have been repurposed. These old sections remain intact, frozen in time. This preservation may be one reason the lady in the wheelchair continues to appear, tethered to the very environment she once knew. Tonight, as we stand in that same hallway, the feeling of anticipation is almost tangible. It is quiet, but not peaceful. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant echo, seems magnified. The lady in the wheelchair is not a fleeting shadow. She is a symbol of the enduring presence that haunts this hospital, a reminder that some stories from Independence Mental Hospital are far from over. One of the most unsettling aspects of Independence Mental Hospital isn't what you see, it's what you hear. Long after the older wings were closed to regular patients, staff and visitors began reporting sounds that seemed impossible. In the modern wings, faint noises drift from the old corridors, as though the building itself is whispering secrets of its past. The sounds are subtle at first, a distant shuffle, the tap of shoes on wooden floors, or a soft scraping against metal. The old patient hallways are especially notorious. Visitors have described hearing the distinct clicking of women's heels, echoing down empty corridors where no one is walking. Some say the sound is rhythmic, almost purposeful, as if the person or spirit is pacing while waiting for someone. Tour groups occasionally report whispers that rise and fall, unintelligible but unmistakably human in tone. In some cases, these whispers are accompanied by brief, sharp sounds, like a chair scraping across the floor or a door creaking open by itself. Investigators exploring these hallways often choose to stop and stand still, listening for any sign of movement. The quiet is heavy and expectant. It isn't peaceful, it's charged, as if the building is holding its breath. Using digital audio recorders and EMF meters, teams have captured unexplained spikes in energy during moments when the noises occur. The recordings sometimes reveal faint voices or metallic clattering that cannot be linked to any known source. The architectural design of the hospital plays a role in the eerie effect. Long, narrow corridors with high ceilings and thick walls create perfect acoustics for sound to carry unnaturally. Even a slight movement in one wing can resonate throughout the building, making it difficult to distinguish between natural echoes and something truly paranormal. Many who explore the old patient wards describe the sensation of footsteps following them, only to disappear when they turn around. Visitors often report a creeping pressure in the air when these sounds manifest. It's subtle at first, a chill that brushes past your neck or a sudden heaviness in your chest. As investigators proceed deeper into the wings, the combination of the hospital's history and the strange noises can create a feeling of intense unease. Even those who do not believe in ghosts feel a heightened awareness of the surroundings. The auditory phenomena at Independence Mental Hospital are not limited to one hallway or floor. They are reported throughout the older patient areas, from the lower wings to the upper floors. Each sound, whether it's a shuffle, a whisper, or a metallic scrape, adds to the impression that the building is alive in some inexplicable way, carrying echoes of lives that spent decades inside these walls. Standing in the middle of a long, deserted corridor, it's easy to imagine the countless footsteps that have passed before, the whispered words that have lingered, and the energy that refuses to fade. These sounds are not just tricks of the mind. They are a consistent part of the hospital's haunted reputation. For those willing to listen, the halls of Independence Mental Hospital speak, telling stories that cannot be seen, but can be felt in every creak, whisper, and echo. Beneath the main building of Independence Mental Hospital lies a network of tunnels. These passageways were originally built to allow staff and supplies to move between wings without exposure to the harsh Iowa winters. The tunnels are narrow, with low ceilings and damp, stale air. Over the years, they have become one of the hospital's most unsettling areas, largely unseen by the public. The tunnels are often described as claustrophobic. Investigators who have entered report feeling completely cut off from the outside world. There is no natural light, and the echo of footsteps can make it feel like someone else is always walking behind you. Many people exploring these underground paths have experienced a strange sense of being followed, even when they are alone. Some describe hearing footsteps that match their own pace, as though an unseen presence is mirroring their every move. Paranormal reports from the tunnels often include disembodied whispers and low, indistinct voices. Occasionally, investigators detect EMF spikes in areas where the tunnels bend or narrow. Some explorers also report sudden drops in temperature, chills that cannot be explained by the building's ventilation or weather outside. The atmosphere in these tunnels is heavy and oppressive, creating a sense of anxiety that builds with every step further into the darkness. There are also stories of fleeting shadows in the tunnels. Witnesses describe seeing dark human-like shapes moving at the edge of their vision, disappearing when directly looked at. Unlike the sightings in the upper floors, these figures seem to glide silently, without the sound of shoes or movement. The tunnel's history contributes to the chilling environment. While they were intended for practical purposes, the shadows and unexplained sounds have made them a hotspot for paranormal investigations in Iowa. The tunnel network also connects to some of the hospital's oldest and most isolated wings. These areas were once storage spaces, laundry rooms, or maintenance areas, now long abandoned. Investigators note that the energy in these hidden spaces often feels stronger, more active, than in the better preserved museum sections. The combination of darkness, confined space, and history creates an environment that seems to amplify paranormal activity. For anyone brave enough to enter, the tunnels are not just a physical challenge. They are an emotional and psychological experience. Many report a sense of urgency, like the building itself is watching or aware of their presence. Some have described the sensation of cold air brushing past them, footsteps echoing without a source, or the feeling of unseen eyes following in their every move. This section of the hospital is perhaps the clearest example of how the past lingers in physical spaces, and how energy from long ago events can leave a permanent mark. The tunnels of Independence Mental Hospital serve as a stark reminder that not all hauntings are visible. Some are heard, felt, or sensed. Walking through them, it is easy to understand why so many investigators report a deep, unsettling connection to the spirits of the hospital. Here in the underground passages, history and the paranormal collide in a way that leaves even the most experienced explorers wary and alert. As our investigation comes to a close, we step back outside, looking at the towering structure of Independence Mental Hospital under the night sky. The building's Gothic architecture, tall windows, and sprawling wings take on an almost foreboding presence after walking through its halls and tunnels. Standing here, it's clear that the stories of this place are more than legend. They are echoes of lives that have left an impression on the hospital that refuses to fade. One of the most consistent reports from both staff and visitors involves the sensation of presence. Many describe an unshakable feeling that someone is nearby, watching or following them, even in empty rooms. Paranormal investigators note that this feeling is strongest near areas that were once central to patient care, such as former treatment rooms, dormitories, and administrative offices. People often describe brief glimpses of figures moving just out of the corner of their eyes, shadows that vanish when confronted. These sightings, combined with unexplained noises, suggest that the energy here is persistent and aware. Visitors have also reported hearing voices, sometimes faint and distant, other times startlingly clear. These sounds range from whispers and murmurs to what some describe as commands or warnings. Investigators often attempt communication with spirit boxes, recording devices, and other equipment, capturing words and syllables that appear to respond directly to their presence. Even when no one else is in the room, these responses seem intentional, as though the spirits are choosing when to interact. Another commonly reported phenomenon involves temperature changes and sudden drafts. Hallways that feel warm in the daytime can become icy at night, even in well-insulated areas. Investigators often document these changes alongside unexplained noises or EMF activity, reinforcing the idea that the hospital retains residual energy from its long history. These sensations are not tied to ventilation or external weather conditions. They appear to originate from the building itself. The hospital's history also continues to shape its paranormal reputation. From its opening in 1873, it has seen generations of patients and staff. While medical care has evolved and modern wings now house active psychiatric services, the original wings retain the atmosphere of the past. Visitors describe the space as heavy and emotional, as if the building itself is filled with memory. The combination of architecture, history, and long-term human presence seems to create an environment where paranormal activity thrives. Ultimately, Independence Mental Hospital is a place where history and haunting are inseparable. Every corridor, room, and tunnel holds stories of those who lived, worked, and wandered here over nearly a century and a half. Even today, the building speaks, not with words, but through shadows, sounds, and sensations that cannot be fully explained. Those who explore the site, whether staff, investigators, or visitors, leave with the impression that some part of the past is still very much present. As we turn to leave, it is impossible not to feel the lingering presence of the hospital. The warnings, the whispers, and the shadows are reminders that places like Independence Mental Hospital are more than structures. They are living memories. For those willing to listen, the hospital tells its story in the only way it knows how, through the energy and spirits of the people who pass through its doors, forever a part of Iowa's most haunting asylum.